Oh, that's us. Oh, there we go. All right, welcome to the LionSide Chat. We are going to get started in just a minute. So if you want to check your audio, make sure your audio is enabled. We will get started in just a minute. So welcome. Looks like we have a decent sized audience. Sonia, are you ready?
Love it.
All right. So welcome to Penn State Berks LionSide Chats, everybody. My name is Dr. Ryan Hassel. I'm one of 3 LionSide Chat moderators working alongside Don Pfeiffer Wrights, and yours here, your presenter for the day, Sonia Delaquito. So come on in and welcome to our campus. We're so glad you could join us. Before we get started, we want to share that you should please submit questions throughout the program via the Q&A feature here. We will facilitate a question and answer with Sonia here at the end of the session. We also will be, I believe, using the chat for a few things here at the beginning. So once the presentation concludes, I'll have that discussion and we can get all of your questions answered. Now, without further ado, let me pull up a slide here to introduce our speaker. This is part of the We Are series for the fall 2021 semester. So this is entitled We Are Successful for this week. We're joined by Sonia Delaquito, who is our Learning Center coordinator at Penn State Berks. She, of course, as I mentioned, is one of the moderators and founders here of this platform. She actually helps me co-direct the STEAM Center for Outreach, but really of all that stuff, probably most notably, Sonia was given the 2021 Penn State University Staff Excellence Award. That's for the entire university, not just Penn State Berks. So we are so grateful that we have such an amazing award winner here with us today. And then I don't know about this, but a fun fact, and it scares me more than probably scares her, that she at one point operated a motorcycle, owned and operated a motorcycle when she was living in Southern California. So that was before the days that I knew her, but sounds a little bit scary.
It was another lifetime ago, Ryan.
Another
for
lifetime.
Sure. Thanks for throwing out my fun fact.
A fun fact, yes. I want some picture evidence.
Yes.
I'm sure I will have some questions for you, students and faculty and staff who are joining us. Please feel free as we go through this to submit those questions in the Q&A. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Sonia, now. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here and to be able to spend some time with everybody today in the audience, and for those that are catching our recording later on. Wonderful. So today we're talking about We Are Successful and learning strategies. As Ryan said, I'm the coordinator of our Learning Center here at the campus. I've been here for 8 years, and prior to coming to Penn State Berks, just so you know, like why is she here? Why is she talking about learning strategies? I worked in academic advising, tutoring, and student support services in campus life. So I have over 16 years of experience in higher education, and I love working with students individually and making sure that I am meeting them where they are at, right? We're all in different spots. So before we really delve into today's presentation, as I was getting ready to create this, which probably started about 6 weeks ago, I realized that the best starting point would be to make no assumptions, right? And we should start at the beginning early and clarify some terminology and some of these words that we're going to be throwing around today. Like, what does that really mean to you? The proverbial we. So sometimes when we have to think about how to put something into words, we really need to come up with some good adjectives and descriptions. So I would invite you now to write in the chat, how do you define college success? Okay. Go ahead and, take a few minutes to think about that. And Ryan, if you would be so kind as to let me know if anything's coming in, but I really want you to think, like, how do you define college success? It doesn't have to be long. It could be a word or two. All right, we have some coming in. Having good time management, like that, obtaining a degree, grades and attendance, showing up, involvement. Oh, good. These are all great responses. Good grades, giving classes the time they need, good grades and a 4-year degree, being adventurous. College success is being able to work hard. Oh, God, these are great responses. All right, so thank you for your participation. I'm going to go ahead And, as you can see with those responses, how you define it really just depends on you. You might think success could be earning, hold on a second. You need to go to the next slide, obtaining an associate's degree. Okay. It could be attending a four-year college. It could be completing your bachelor's degree. It could be completing your master's degree, maybe getting your doctorate. Okay. Or maybe it's a certificate or finishing some sort of completion of like a training program. Okay. But some of you were mentioning some other measures of college success. Okay. Like grades, right? So you might be unhappy with anything less than an A in a course, whereas another student might be okay with getting a C and they think that that's successful. Okay. And they might be perfectly content with that. But no matter how you define success personally, you probably wouldn't think that entails earning a D or a lower grade in a class. Okay. So if most students believe that passing a class is the minimum requirement for success, and if most students want to be successful in their courses, why aren't more college students successful consistently in the classroom? Let's talk about that a little bit. Okay. So I thought we could talk about some of the common misconceptions that are at play for students. For example, we often hear students say, I just can't do it. Or it's Dr. Hassler's favorite, I'm not good at math. Or college isn't for me. I guess it's just not meant to be. Okay. Or I'm not smart enough. I hate these phrases. Okay. But these explanations for success or failure aren't necessarily accurate. Okay. Considerable research into college success reveals that having difficulty in or failing in college courses usually has nothing to do with intellect. Okay. All right, so we talked a little bit about success now. The other thing that we're going to talk about in this presentation today is a learning strategy. And I'm not going to lie, I looked this up, okay, because that's the way I roll. I have to always revisit things so that I'm not making any assumptions as well. So how do we define a learning strategy? I'm going to go ahead and read off the slide, even though I discourage that all the time. Simply put, a learning strategy is an individual's approach to complete a task. More specifically, a learning strategy is an individual's way of organizing and using a particular set of skills in order to learn content or accomplish other tasks more effectively and efficiently, favorite words, in school as well as in non-academic settings. Okay, so let's really focus on that effectively and efficiently. Okay, so right there, that's the buy-in for a student. Why should you want to be more effective and efficient? Well, first off, you can gain time for the non-academic activities in your life. So clubs, organizations, sports, work, family, significant others, friends, all of that stuff. So it's just like, I like to think about it as when you're working out and you want to gain strength, right? You have to put in reps, right? You have to put in the time. Or if you're a professional sports team and like, do they just go out and play the game? Like, no, like they have practice, they cross train, they do all of this stuff. So in my mind, I would really encourage you each to think about the fact that you should be a professional student, okay? And many of you are focusing just on school, yet others are balancing school and work, right? And developing a whole other skill set that are gonna pay off in dividends for you moving forward, I promise you. But you cannot assume that because you attend class, that will be enough, okay? It's not. And you need to be organized and have very specific tools in your toolbox that you can reach for as you're a college student. So some of these things could be using a planner, a weekly to-do list, but it's going to be a culmination of various activities that should ultimately yield an optimal result for you, okay? So let's think about it this way, because I always like to do the takeaway. So what happens if you don't use strategies? This is it. Chaos, pure chaos. And some of you might be feeling that way right now, okay? Because I think we're entering week 5 of the semester. Our first round of Starfish alerts went out. Some of you might be feeling like this, okay? You're learning the hard way, okay? If you're not using strategies, you're wasting time, you're wasting money, your family's money that you're gonna have to eventually pay back. You may not feel good about yourself as a learner. But really, in all fairness to your abilities, you haven't really put forth the effort yet. Okay. So you haven't been giving yourself a fair chance. You might end up on academic probation or on academic warning in the future. And school may no longer be an option for you. Okay. There's a lot of risks. However, along with these risks come ample opportunity. Okay. And that's what we want to focus on in the form of learning strategies where you can kind of empower yourself and like really propel yourself forward and get massive loads of work done every day. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a little disclaimer here. I don't have any earth-shattering, groundbreaking news that's going to be coming up in this session. But what I want you to ask you to do right now is in this moment, I want you to visualize yourself performing one of these new activities, trying something new that you haven't before. And I want you to even like think of like the dedicated spaces or places that you do your work in, and imagine yourself performing one of these behaviors. Okay. So what do I mean by visualize? Break this down a little bit. Went to the APA because, you know, we can trust them. And visualization is a process of creating a visual image in one's mind or mentally rehearsing a planned movement in order to learn skills or enhance performance. Okay. So I always share this example. I think I use visualization a lot, especially when it comes to running. So I like to run, and the night before I go on a run on a Saturday morning, in addition to making sure I have all of my sneakers, my socks, all of my equipment is laid out the night before, I mentally select the route that I'm going to take so that in the morning, I don't have to make a decision, right? And I physically, or I mentally envision myself running the different routes that I've mapped out in my area. Okay. And it works, right? I've never not completed a run that I have used this technique with. So as a student, I really want to encourage you to start using that skill. So if you want to visualize yourself studying in the library or generating test content or reading your textbook, writing out index cards, or it could be performing on a test, you know, imagining yourself in a classroom, confidently answering questions on the test and then handing in the paper when you're done. It makes it easier for us when it comes time to perform. So visualization is like a little tool that you can use. Okay, so this is going to be really wordy, lots of information, but I hope you're still with me and taking some notes on these tips. And this website or the information is going to be available on our website, but this way you can kind of commit to something now. So the things I'm going to encourage you to follow and embrace, there's 7 different steps. More likely than not, there's something that you're maybe not doing as well on, or maybe you can improve your performance on this list. So go ahead and think about what I said, like pick out at least one thing from this list that you could try to start doing a little bit differently. If you follow this information this semester, it's going to allow you to achieve the grades that you want. Okay. As a note of interest, again, at the time of this presentation, we're receiving those first round of early progress reports from Starfish. So at weeks 3 and 4 and 7 and 8, you're going to get instructor feedback to let you know how you're performing in your classes. So if you look at the Penn State Berks Student Planner, pages 8 and 9, you'll get like actual tips and tools on how to have conversations with your instructors. And I'd really encourage you to consult that. But more likely than not, again, I would encourage you to start following the information that I'm presenting to you today to really optimize your ability to be a good student. Okay. So note taking is a skill that can help you do well on all of your schoolwork, everything from taking tests to researching a paper. So you want to be writing down some key facts. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to go crazy taking notes or be frantically taking notes. And, you know, if you see that your instructor is writing something on the board, then you want to go ahead and write that on the board as well. And again, like being an active listener while you're taking notes is super important. So if you have questions that is related directly to the content that your instructor is speaking about, you want to go ahead and ask those questions, because the odds are if you have that question or if you're not completely clear, it's okay to provide that touch point and touchstone for the instructor, because other students that you're attending class with might also have those same questions. You definitely want to keep your notes handy when you go to compare. And I know that these are all things, again, that you've probably heard in the past, But if you start to take the initiative to perform them and compare your class notes with the notes you take the night before, as you're reading your textbook or the day before, it's really going to help you to synthesize that information. Okay. Even going over your notes with a friend or a classmate can help you reinforce what you're learning, because it gives you that time to kind of synthesize again the material in a different setting. So oftentimes when I meet with students in the office and I'm like, okay, why don't you show me your notes? And they've been handwriting their notes, they could improve on their handwriting techniques. So a good way to improve on your ability to read your notes is to copy the notes and then rewrite them after you're done with class. And again, that's a way for you, especially if you could do it shortly after your class is ended. The information is still fresh in your mind, so you don't have to kind of regenerate that information later on. But most importantly, keep your notes organized. Taking a couple of extra seconds to grab the appropriate notebooks for each of your classes or go to the appropriate section in your binder is going to save you a lot of time in the long run. And remember, we mentioned about being effective and being efficient. Knowing where that book is that you designate for one subject is going to help you in the long run when it comes time to even organize and to use your notes as you're preparing for tests. Okay, so the next one is to review your text and your notes prior to class. Okay, so as a student, I'm going to go ahead and pay this forward to you. So I'm going to sit up a little bit straighter. This is a game changer. Unfortunately, I don't really think I followed this until my sophomore year of college. So do not wait to start this, right? Everybody should be doing this. When students read a textbook before class, the fundamental nature of class meetings is changed. Okay, when you're arriving familiar with basic concepts and definitions and understanding, it's going to allow your instructor to provide more class time to address any ideas that your instructor wants to focus on. So once you read the text, you can basically consider that as your first time studying for your test. Okay. Now, here in college, your faculty, your instructor is the expert and they will guide you for information, but you still need a larger context in which to really comprehend what is even being presented in lecture. So reading your text is really, again, your first study session. The sooner that you start doing this, the sooner you're gonna be able to improve the confidence that you have in your class. Okay, this is another tough one. You're putting yourself out there. You want to participate in discussions that are happening in class and even perhaps join a study group. So some instructors, Dr. Hassler, will call on students at random to answer questions, okay? Others might wait in silence until somebody gives in, okay? But please participate. Take a risk, okay? This is where we're learning. Like this, you want to be if you're going to screw up somewhere, you want to do it in lecture, okay? Because that's not the test. The whole point of learning is for you to be engaging in these thoughtful discussions in your classrooms. Your peers are also enrolled in the course and more likely than not have, again, those same questions that you have. And if you form a study group that meets regularly throughout the semester, that is run well and not just a study group, we're getting together to study, like you're actually, somebody's taking the lead and organizing content and materials. This is a great place for getting used to participation, okay? And that can help bridge that gap. If you're a little too shy to do it in the classroom, maybe you could try in a study group first, and that will help you to realize, some other people have the same questions that you do, and it might lead you to even engaging more in that classroom. So studying in a group gives every group member a chance to ask questions and talk about concepts, and again, can build your confidence. Guys, we're halfway through, okay? Number 4, go to office hours and ask your instructor questions, okay? So there's lots of different reasons for you to attend these office hours. And I'm sure that if we have any faculty in the audience today, that they will agree that not enough students come to them in advance. They don't come in a timely manner. This gives you an opportunity to clarify and ask questions about course content. You can get studying ideas. You can ask questions about the syllabus, any upcoming assignments and different due dates. And so like after you carefully review the syllabus and any assignment prompts from your instructor, you can go in and have a conversation. Don't just say like, hey, when's that test again? When's that? You want to go in showing your instructor, like you put some research and time into it and then ask appropriate questions. You can also use office hours to help you prepare for upcoming assignments. You're probably going to be practicing some new skills and they might have to have you develop some new skills skills as you're researching for a paper, for example. Office hours could be an appropriate place for you to discuss your ideas with your instructor and make sure that you're meeting their expectations, okay? Also in office hours, you can review an exam, maybe that you performed not as well as you had thought on. That might be a good time for you to go get that feedback, and you're not doing it in front of the entire class. You can also talk about your grades with your instructor, because if you're dissatisfied with a grade, it's a good opportunity for you to kind of go through that process and understand so that you can amend what you did or what you're going to do for the next time that you have a test or a paper and an assignment. You can also work through some practice problems during office hours or practice scenarios, depending on what your subject is, but definitely use the time to find out and to be vulnerable and hold up that mirror and be like, no, wait, something that I'm doing isn't right, because I know that there's other people performing better in this class. So it's not a whole class issue. It's a me issue, and make changes. And that's okay. Like, you're the one who's taking responsibility for your learning. And that's super insightful if you can start to adopt those behaviors and mindsets now. This one's super important. And if you need help with this, you can always come and meet with me. But kind of backdating all of your assignments. So basically making sure that you're having enough time to break down all of the different pieces that are due for essays and research paper into small and manageable steps. This is going to help you to avoid stress and procrastination. And people who procrastinate often comment that when they wait until the last minute, they feel overwhelmed. And the task seems like insurmountable, like they're never going to be able to accomplish it. But if you can kind of set your priorities and break it into smaller, less intimidating pieces, that will really help you out. Okay. So you want to look at the big picture, and you make sure you understand what you're supposed to be doing. Look at all of the different parts of the task and realistically think about, like, how long is each piece of this going to really take, right? You have to do some research, and that might take a couple of hours. Maybe you need to meet with a tutor from the writing center to get some feedback. Oh, well, you can't do that an hour before the paper's due. So that means you're going to have to bump up the deadline even sooner. Okay. So think about all of those things, create a timeline, and make sure that you adhere to that timeline, and make sure you stay on track. So you want to make sure, again, to have your assignment done early enough that if your instructor's open to it, you might even be able to float it to them. But if not, sharing it with a peer, maybe a roommate, or again, somebody from the writing center who can give you some feedback, so that way you're not going in like crossing your fingers, throwing that Hail Mary. Let's have some conversations. Especially with writing, like, it's so personal. And I always felt like people were looking into my soul and judging me. They're not judging me. They're not judging you. They're judging your techniques. Okay. And the sooner that you can make those changes to what you're doing, the better your grades are going to be. Okay. Almost there. I got two more. So you want to take advantage of any online or on-campus academic support resources. Something else you could consider, we mentioned a study group earlier. You can add a tutor to your study group, and you're going to really notice a positive difference when you're taking advantage of the tutoring that's available to you. It is free. I mean, people pay $50, $60, $70, $80 for academic support per hour. You are already paying for it. Now you just have to come and use it. Okay, so don't be shy. Here in the Learning Center, you get one appointment per day per subject, which is still pretty generous. And we still have spots open on our calendar. So please take advantage and sign up for these opportunities. Usually tutors have taken the specific class, maybe not with the same instructor, but they've taken the class you're coming to get support in. So they have a unique perspective and insight that even a faculty tutor may not be able to provide to you. So make sure that you come in and take advantage of those resources that we have available for you as a student. This number 7 is really about focusing on your role in taking control of your education. One approach to making sure that you're spending enough time studying that I think everybody should be doing is really creating not just a study schedule, but a weekly schedule. Okay, so make sure that you allot ample time for studying. A lot of students don't realize there's 168 hours in a week. Okay, so most college success experts will agree that students should commit at least 2 hours outside of class for every hour in class. And that's for like an average student. If you're a student who knows that you've struggled with a certain subject, or, it takes you a little bit longer to write, you're going to want to even bump up those hours a little bit further. The other part of creating a schedule is really committing to it. You can only break away from your committed schedule if an extreme situation prevents you from sticking to it. Okay. And that's not like, oh, there's a new video I got to watch on TikTok or whatever it is. Like, yeah, that is not an extreme situation. That will be there. After you get your work done, that is when you can play. So overall, like, students struggle in college, not again because of a lack of natural intellect or smarts, but because of poor time management and organization and a lack of quality study time. The good news is, like, obviously there's a lot of different ways for you to combat this, specifically by doing things like creating a regular study schedule, studying in groups, taking advantage of the school's academic resources like a tutoring center, going to instructor office hours, and any other available help. Okay. I'm included in that help here at Penn State Berks. Not every Penn State campus has a learning center coordinator that will meet with you individually to help you make sure that you're spending enough time on what you need to be prioritizing as a student. Okay. The appointment, some of the people I think in the audience have done it with me. It takes about 30 or 40 minutes where we really sit down and thoughtfully engage in discussion about the schedule that you've created. I give you my feedback and then you go off. I have the easy piece of this job. I'm like the Vanna White to your Pat Sajak. I help you create that schedule, but then you got to go out and follow it. Okay. And that's where students are often finding themselves the most challenged. Okay. So that's our list of 7. So just to go back, like, we just want to revisit that definition again. Organizing and using a particular set of skills in order to learn content or accomplish other tasks more effectively and efficiently. Okay. So these are like your suggested deliverables. If you want to, go ahead and take a quick photo of this, so that way you can kind of keep it handy and remember all of the things you need to be mindful of as you're planning your upcoming weeks. Okay. Because we're about a quarter of the way through the semester now, and you still have time to take action. Look at these. These are all verbs. Take notes, review, participate, go, control, commit. Okay. Use. Okay. It's all up to you. So what and how have you learned up until now? You're probably sitting there thinking, how have I made it this far as a college student? So the good news and the bad news, it's totally up to you, again, to make sure that you're taking responsibility for your education. Grades are going to be posted a few months from now, following your first semester or second or third semester of college. And at this point, you're still in control of your destiny. Okay. Now, one of my favorite things, so I might get a little excited here, but as a new college student, you have been and you're currently experiencing the 80-20 shift. So you need to also adopt this academic mind shift. So what am I talking about? So your prior high school environment, if you look to I think it's my left of the screen, your high school environment trained you to believe that if you pay close attention in class, you record everything that the teacher writes on the board, if you memorize what's handed out and stay on that conveyor of like activities, homecoming queen or a king, or, I play field hockey, whatever those things are, that you're going to get an A. Okay. So 80% or the majority of your learning was encapsulated by those activities. The 20% consists of you doing a quick study sheet or a review the day before a test. Okay. This will not work in college. I guarantee you. I wish I had a student here who could tell you that that's true. Okay. It's not going to work. In college, you got to switch. You got to switch those percentages. Okay. And you have to start working according towards the 20-80 principle. Okay. So you should consider the information that the professor provides in class via lectures and study guides about 20% of what you need to know. And then you, the student, are responsible for generating and synthesizing and digesting the other 80% of the class information. Okay. This work is done outside of class. This is what college is all about. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I've had so much free time, you need to change your ways. There is no way, if you're a full-time college student right now, that you should have any free time on your schedule. All of those hours should be accounted for. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about this college professor. The 20% they provide is incredibly important. But it's not sufficient for you to be successful on a test, okay? So unlike your college or pre-college teachers, like your high school teachers, you have to understand that the instructor here in college, they feel like they're a guide. They're going to shepherd you along the knowledge pathway, okay? But they do not expect to provide students information to pass tests. That might be worth saying again. College professors do not expect to provide students information to pass tests. Wait for it. I hope everybody's sitting down. They expect to guide students as the students learn the content. They are looking at learning. They are attempting to educate you. Okay. So now that we know everything that we've learned about our learning through high school experience is not going to help us make the grade in college, like what are we supposed to do? So again, we're going to take responsibility, okay, for our learning and our earning. So earning grades is something that you're doing upon registration and enrollment in a class. Like you really need to focus. And this slide here is just one of many examples that exists on the interwebs for you to guide your decision-making and share strategies that are going to help you to experience success. So remember, again, my emphasis is on the grades are not given to you, that they are earned. You can earn an A, but you can also earn an F and any other letter that falls in between. And while you're going to be graded on the academic content of a course, right? It's really everything that you're doing outside of class time and outside of the classroom that will inform your eventual degree of success. Okay. Whoops. Hang in there, guys. So that's a lot. I'm a lot. You might be sitting there thinking, wow, that's a lot. And I'm not doing what I need to be doing. And in moments like these, right, we got to go back. Like we got to revisit why am I here in the first place? Okay. So success in college can depend on a lot of things. And a huge piece of that is staying motivated and persevering, even if you're frustrated. Okay. So if you right now you're thinking, oh, I'm having a hard time, like balancing school and work and my family life and all, just life in general, the pandemic, anything. These are some things that you want to focus on. Okay. So you want to change your perspective. This is going to set the tone. Okay. So you probably know somebody in your life who's always like, hey, it's okay. At least this isn't happening. And, they're just like, sometimes people are just born to just deal with things a little bit easier. Okay. So while it's true that some of the classes that you're taking might be more important than others, you have to remember there's a larger purpose here. Okay. So let's think about English classes, because a lot of you are probably in an English class right now. They can help professionals communicate more effectively in writing, for example, in basic coursework, and they can serve as a foundation to help you in your other courses as well. So if you don't get like the grade that you were hoping to on a paper, you can kind of remember that you have support services and different resources to help you get better prepared for the next time you have an assignment due. Something else to help you stay motivated is to make sure that you prioritize high impact tasks. Okay. So it's easy to get bogged down in your coursework, especially if you don't have a plan. So if you find yourself with an upcoming exam to study for and some reading homework, you're going to probably benefit from, making sure that you're studying for that exam, because that's what's coming up first, and getting studying out of the way in that case can kind of help reduce that stress and build your confidence. You also want to look at setting small goals. Again, I mentioned before with big presentations or papers, it's kind of difficult to kind of see that progress. It's kind of like going from week 1 of the semester to week 15. Okay. So it's hard. So you want to break that down into like weekly digestible steps. Okay. So each time you complete one of those steps, you can get the sense that you're making progress towards your overall goal. You definitely need to celebrate those successes when you have them. Okay. Even if it's something small. So let's say right now, like you never sat down and created a schedule and you email me and you say, hey, Sonia, can I have that guide that you send students? And I'd be like, sure. And you sit down and you put that time in to create a schedule, which takes about 30 or 45 minutes. You're going to feel so much better. Okay. And that's a reason to celebrate. Then you have to go out and follow that schedule. Okay. But make sure that you do reward yourself, like whatever it is, whatever you like to do, get the work done and then have time for play. Or if you're going to take breaks in between, getting a paper submitted or completing your homework for your math classes on time, take that break, enjoy it, and then get back and keep doing your work. Definitely don't let failure derail your focus. I love failure. I love owning it, that I've screwed up on something, and I'll be the first person to say, hey, I screwed up, but I think that's super important for our learning. Okay. And we don't want to get discouraged by that. It's definitely an opportunity for you to assess what went wrong and what you've learned so that you can make sure that you're going to be successful in the future. Okay. So if you haven't yet read about it, I would encourage you to look up growth mindset. Okay. So it gives that opportunity for you to always add the ellipses and the word yet at the end of everything, because we may not know how to do something yet. Okay. So make sure that you have that inspirational outlook when it comes to failure, okay, or not being successful the first time. Definitely, we talked about routines. You have to make time for yourself as well. And sometimes I've worked with students in the past who were studying too much. It happens. It does happen. And that student, I had to say, you need to take a break. Like, where are your breaks at? And once they built them into their schedule, they figured out, oh yeah, that's exactly what I needed. They were overworked and overstudying. Okay, so sometimes you do need to make sure that you have your personal health and wellness goals set onto your schedule as well. Make sure you check things out and reevaluate. If things aren't jiving after 2 weeks, maybe you need to add more time to your schedule, or maybe you need to add less. So nothing is ever set in stone. And this is actually, like, if you start this earlier on in your college career, we want to eventually get to that point where we're minimizing that learning curve. Okay, we want to make it easier and easier for you to be successful as a student, even though your subjects and your instructors potentially could be getting more challenging for you. This way, the whole outside of the classroom piece is being figured out, and you're feeling more confident in your ability to navigate this whole college thing. Definitely reach out for support. If you haven't sat down with your families and friends already, and they don't really know what college is like show them, and having a schedule is a great opportunity for you to say, it's not that I don't want to be with you. Look at what I'm doing right now, and sometimes this is a helpful tool for a student to realize, ooh, I overcommitted. And it's okay to overcommit, but you have to make some changes and say, okay, I've overcommitted. These are the things that are my priorities, and the rest of this needs to go. And it's okay. Sometimes students find themselves overwhelmed and overcommitted. And one of the best opportunities for leadership is for you to acknowledge that and then scale yourself back. Okay. And as a college club advisor and somebody that works a lot with students, everybody understands. Okay. But that self-awareness and that insight is huge. And lastly, you definitely need to remember that big picture. It's sometimes really easy to forget why you're here in the first place, because all of that work and all of that time and all of that effort is being done for a reason. Okay. So this is going to help you take your life in the direction that you want to go in. And it's definitely helpful for you to remind yourself about that big picture, especially when things start to seem daunting. Okay, so college can feel overwhelming at times, but if you find yourself struggling with focus and motivation, take time to really focus on what you think is going wrong and then set some reasonable goals. Okay, so even the biggest project or responsibility can be successfully handled if you break it down into smaller steps and just keep pushing through. Okay, there's people here. We're cheerleaders. I love my job. I love helping students. So get connected with me or somebody else here on campus, and we can help you to stay on the right trajectory. Okay, so lots of information today. Thank you so much for hanging with me. I'm gonna go ahead and start just highlighting some of the really important takeaways. At the beginning of this presentation, we defined success and how people define success differently when it comes to post-secondary education. But remember, how do you define success? Okay, you determine what happens this semester and beyond. And at the end of the day, you're responsible for your learning. And the sooner that you realize this, the more successful you're going to be, not just academically, but in life. Okay, you know you better than anyone else. So if someone, if you're somebody who always waits till the last minute, okay, I know you're out there, do something now to make that change. Later is going to be here before you know it. College is a choice. Being here is a choice. Even if there was someone who encouraged you or mentored you, you're the person who's sitting here and engaging in your work or choosing not to engage, right? And your transcript is telling the story of your academic career. Okay, your transcript's going to follow you from institution to institution, and you really need to think about what you want your story to be. Okay, make sure that you're reading your syllabus, learning about the Penn State values, engaging in opportunities that connect you with faculty and staff, and you can be the leader of your life. Okay. And again, like with leadership, you're going to find formal and informal leadership opportunities on this campus. Even if it's a group project, there's always going to be somebody who's not pulling their share there, of the project. And, you can say, well, they didn't do it. Or you could say, you know what, I realize, let me help you with this. Okay. So inevitably, you're going to be faced with these choices to either step up or allow the group to fail. And I encourage you, to pause and be the person that stands up and make sure that you get your work done. Okay. Communication is huge. You want to make sure that you're connecting with your first year seminar instructor, your mentor here at Berks, connect with your faculty, connect with me. We're always going to be operating under the no news is good news principle. Okay. And we do outreach, we do tabling, we might come to your classrooms, but unless you're letting us know that there's something wrong, like we're just going to assume that you're doing an awesome job. Okay. And it's okay if that's not the case, but come and talk to somebody before you do anything. Never make any changes to your course schedule until you have conversations with your instructor, your academic advisor, and financial aid in the bursar's office. And lastly, we want to focus on behaviors and habits. I am a huge habit fan. Okay. So college grades, again, are not necessarily that reflection of your intellect. However, they can be reflective of that college knowledge and how to navigate the transition to college life. So if you're the first person in your family to attend college, this is new for everyone. Okay. Regularly meet with faculty, staff, and student mentors so you can educate yourself on maximizing the learning experiences here in your academic career early on. The sooner, the better. Okay. Because if you get connected with anybody on this campus, the more likely you will be to succeed. So thank you so much. I can't believe so many of you stayed. That's so exciting. Please reach out. There's my contact information. Okay. Set up a time to meet with me. Shoot me an email if you're not ready to meet, but you need some information. I am happy to share links to videos, websites, whatever you want. And yeah, thank you so much.
All right, so now it's time for question and answer. I have several of them prepared, but she just talked about participating. So come on, this is your time. Put this into place. You want to be successful. So go ahead and throw any questions you have. We still have plenty of time here to, you can't be the only one that's struggling or having successes, right? Let's celebrate successes, but I always say embrace the failures as well, right? You have to own those mistakes. So what are questions? What are you doing? What are things that you're not sure about? What is happening right now? I think most of the audience, Sonia, is first year students here.
Okay.
So I'll start the question, but I expect to see several of these questions being thrown into the Q&A. So come on, guys, let's throw some questions in here to the Q&A at Sonia. So as a math faculty member, Sonia, I often hear students say, oh, it was just the first test. I understand my mistakes. I'll get it next time. No big deal. So that's what I see. And maybe you can get some comments on that. But what are some pitfalls of first semester students that you encounter? Is it similar to what I just said? What do you suggest to students? Because I have a response when I hear that, but I'm wondering what you
hold off on that. I think that's a heavy case of denial, right? I think again, we have this tendency to be helpful, but almost to a fault where things aren't always going to work out in our favor. You need to look no further than the syllabus and what guidance was laid forth by your faculty member to see maybe I'll bump it up to a 60 and I'll get a D, like we don't even want to go there. What we need to do is really, again, focus on those habits and behaviors. Did you buy your My Math Lab code? Have you been using the free code, right? That expires and eliminates your access, right? Like there's some of these, again, outside of the classroom concerns that probably aren't being addressed. And a student who might find themselves in that situation needs to meet with their instructor as soon as possible, okay? Because there's a lot of self-reporting going on these days, and I'm sure that everybody's acting with integrity when they're reporting like what their performance was like in high school and on their ALEX test. but there is no shame in you admitting like, you know what, I screwed up. You're right. I wasn't spending the time. Like if you're telling me you legitimately prepared and that's the best that you can do, that's one thing. Oftentimes I find, Ryan, that is not the case. And I will always say to students when they come to meet with me, let's be honest here. Okay. Because I want to help you. And if you're telling me you've really been spending this much time, you know, there could be something else going on, something underlying that may or may not have existed in high school and is now surfacing now that we have a less structured environment that we're in higher education.
Yeah, I mean, I see that too. You know, I often have, there's a false perception, and I see it on both ends. You know, sometimes my students who do very, very well in my test are the ones who are so hard on themselves and they're like, oh, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail. And then I turn around, I'm like, you did everything you should have. You put X, Y, and Z into place, and then they are successful. But on the other hand, I ask students, oh, you know, how did you do? Oh, it'll be fine. I prepared enough. It'll be okay. And then it's just like a huge reality shock. And then denial, like you said, I'll get it next time. So putting these things into place that Sonia is saying, you know, one thing I also say is you get your first, say, math test or any test there for a matter of fact, back, and let's say you get a 60% on it. You know, the person in denial, the person who's not going to try to change their habits, takes that test, puts it in their backpack, and then we'll pull that out 10 weeks from now and start studying for a final. Well, why? You're not going to study something that you have 60% accuracy on. Even if you do 100% correct, 100% studying on that, you're still going to get 60%. So I know at the college level, we don't do test corrections by and large and things like that. But there are things that Sonia and myself as a learning center tutor can help put you into place. But we can if you're denying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, and that's being vulnerable, and it's okay to admit that you've screwed up. And I said it. I meant what I said. I admit when I screw up.
39% on my first Calculus 2 exam.
There you have it, folks. It's recorded.
39%. So I had to learn how to study. I did not know. I sailed through high school, didn't know how to study. All right, enough about that. Let's see. There's a bunch of questions coming in. This is good. All right, Here we go, Sonia. Even when I think I'm prepared for the test, I still do very poorly, or I sometimes fail. What do you suggest I do differently next time? How can I change this?
Sure, great question. I actually have one of my most favorite handouts is called a 5-day study plan. And it's kind of like a grid, and it gives you exactly like ideas of how you could be filling your time. Now, I'm not sure what type of test we're specifically talking about, but on this handout, it gives you different ideas like creating note cards, creating a practice test, administering the practice test, creating a study guide. And it kind of breaks it down in a 5-day plan, because studying the night before for a test is not going to be enough. Okay. And again, if we have these dedicated and reserved hours throughout our week where it's like, this is a 2-hour span where I know I get work done. Or this is a 3-hour span, we can kind of more easily absorb those unanticipated things like a flat tire, illness, you know, or a family emergency. We're not going to it's not going to be as much of a trauma for us to absorb those things if we're always preparing in advance. Like if you're ever sitting there thinking like, oh, I don't know what to do, I don't have enough things to fill my time, you come see me. I will fill your time. I will tell you exactly what you should be doing. There's always reading, outlining, note cards. It could be, again, like creating some practice tests, study guide, going to instructor hours, going to the learning center, going to the writing center. Like I'm full of suggestions. So please come work with me. And if you're interested in getting a copy of that 5-day study guide, you just shoot me an email. I'd be happy to give it to you.
And amazingly, you answered the next question I was going to ask right in there. I'm going to state it so everybody knows, right?
Okay.
But the question was, I'm currently my study schedule is essentially just spending a lot of time at the library doing schoolwork, 5 20-minute breaks here or there. What suggestions do you have for improvement? So I feel like you just answered that. You can comment on it. One of my questions from the academic side is not necessarily even time, but what are you studying? How are you studying?
Right. Where are you studying? How are you breaking up that time? So I had recommended a lot of the times students maybe can do like 2-hour work periods. And within that 2-hour work period, you do 4 30-minute sessions. And furthermore, you break down those 4 30-minute sessions into 25 minutes of distraction-free work. What does that mean? No phone, no friends, no fun. Like that is focused, efficient, effective time. Then you take a 5-minute break, get a drink, say hi to your friends, check your phone. Guess what? After that 5 minutes, you go back and you do another 25 minutes. This will allow you to go from subject to subject. So you're never in a position to tell you to an instructor, oh, I was so focused on getting my stat homework done that I forgot all about my Spanish homework. right? Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that you've placed value on their class and you put it less than somebody else's class. Okay. So really that Pomodoro technique is what I didn't even know existed, but I started telling a student about it once and they told me, they're like, oh, that's an official thing. And I was like, oh man, should have been the Delaquito technique. But anyway,
there will be one, I'm sure.
Break up those periods of time into smaller workloads. And again, that's going to help you to be effective and efficient. But you are your own worst enemy, but you are your own best champion too. Okay. So you know yourself, you got to hold yourself accountable. And if once you start doing that, you're going to feel better. You're going to see a better performance and you're going to feel better knowing that you're not leaving anything out there on the table.
All right. There's a lot of great questions. So we'll see if we can get through some of them. Here's one. When taking notes, I feel like the teacher moves way too fast. How can I adjust to this?
Ooh, okay. So in that situation, and again, feel free to make an appointment in case I don't answer your question today. But I would do as much preparation in advance for that class, knowing what you do now. Okay. We're entering week 5. See if there's any notes that the professor provides in advance. Print out those notes before you go to class. Make sure you have those notes as you're reading the assigned readings that are due that day for the class, because once you have a context in which you have a foundation for that knowledge, you're not going to be hearing things for the first time, right? You know, when we hear something new, it's like, ooh, like I have no idea what that means. Or like, you feel like almost like this internalized pressure, like, oh, I have to get all of that information down because I have no idea what you're talking about. If you're starting reading in advance and trying to get a flow and a feel of that instructor, that's a great way for you to combat that. You also go to your office hours for that faculty because they might be giving, like, they might have some other additional insights or tips or tricks that they may not have offered to the class at large, because if they're not hearing from students like you, they may not know, like, oh, they're going too fast, or I don't know how to keep up. So I'd imagine, and Ryan can speak better to this as a faculty than I, but like something like instructors and faculty are also human, right? So sometimes it could be us, or maybe we are moving fast. But there's some things that you can do on your end to combat those instances, and also get to know somebody in your class. Okay, because that's going to be your like an invaluable resource. If you're both dedicated to sitting there taking notes, you can cross-reference what each other has and then use it as a nice little like segue into a study group, possibly.
Trying to grab some links there. So there's a couple questions that we probably won't get to, but I'm throwing some links into the chat box. A couple people are asking about study groups and how to start study groups and joining study groups. So I just posted a link in the chat box for everybody for keeplearning.psu.edu. There's a lot of good techniques. Sonia and I actually helped put some videos together to how you can start to create your own study group, and come see us and we can help you, get that started. There's a couple questions about tutoring here as well. I will post the link to the Berks website here in a second. Let me throw another question to Sonia and then I'll go grab that link. This is a good question, and some of our people in the audience might be feeling similar, Sonia, but one student is writing, I feel like I'm fine right now. I'm getting my work done. I'm studying a little bit, getting good grades. I still have lots of free time. Am I doing something wrong?
Yes. But we're again, like this is a very opportune window. And what I would really recommend that student do, I don't know if I have one handy. This might be an outdated copy, but I make these sheets every semester. It's a semester at a glance form. And this is your entire semester. We're already like to here. Okay. So this is a great tool for students to put like academic projects, due dates, tests, because you're going to see a pattern develop. Okay. And sometimes that pattern is you have 3 tests in 1 week. Okay. So you doing a 5-day study plan for those weeks where you have 3 tests, that's going to be super overwhelming. Okay. So we got to start kind of working ahead. And that's where using a document like this and other resources that are available to you through the Learning Center or through me are really going to help you to realize, oh, okay, you know what, I'm doing well. Now to that student, again, if you're taking 15 credits, you should be spending 30 to 45 hours outside of class time to make sure you're successful in those 15 credits. And there's 168 hours in a week. That's 60 hours already off the table. You still need to eat and hang out and work and drive and commute and be a college student, because we're not just here for the academics, right, everybody? But the academics are what's going to keep these opportunities open to you. So to that student, you send me an email, I'll send you a link so you can work through creating your own schedule and we can sit down and have that conversation. Again, there's still plenty of time. that second round of early progress reports is going to go out. And then for some students, it might be too late. And it's kind of like let's see what we could do with what we have left. Okay. Good question.
And I would just reiterate, I mean, that happened to me my first semester of college. I felt like I was fine, got good grades, didn't spend a lot of time. And then that's when that Calc 2, the second semester, hit me. So, and beyond all of that, you have all this extra free time. Sonia said it here, the end result isn't necessarily having a 4.0 GPA. Are you looking into internships? I don't know what your major is. Are you doing research, undergraduate research? There are so many other opportunities and things that should be filling up your time to make that 40-hour work week, which is, what you are as a full-time student. But yeah, we're here to help. Let's see. There are a couple questions that are related to, we already talked about, that idea of being ahead with taking notes, but what exactly is active listening? How do I use it in class? And how can I effectively take notes? So I don't know, it's kind of similar. But go ahead.
That's a lot. That's a lot of unpacking. I hate that phrase, but I'll say that's a lot of unpacking to do. So there's actually a lot of websites and information available on the internet, for free that we can Google to learn how to be a better active listener. But it's really about being mindful and in the moment. Put your phones down, kids. Like that's number one. And you have to train your brain to be focused in a world that is just full of distractions left and right. Am I right, Dr. Hassler? Right? Yep. This is like part of the discipline that you have to really develop and focus on. So it's, again, like we talked about the study sessions being 25 minutes of distraction-free time. What does that mean? No phone, no friends, no fun. Like you have to instill that same mindset as you're sitting, maybe in an entirely lecture class by an instructor whose subject maybe isn't your favorite, okay? Maybe it's a requirement for your degree, but it's not necessarily related to your major. You have to figure out a way to engage yourself, okay? And again, exposing yourself to content prior to going to class is going to ease that uphill battle, okay? So empower yourself using those 15 to 30 hours or whatever it is for you and your schedule outside of class to really maximize that 50 minutes or 1 hour and 15 minutes that you have, or 3 hours straight with your instructor every week. Okay. So if you would like to follow up and we could have a meeting on that, I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah. I was a high school math teacher. I know that students coming out of high school don't know how to read textbooks anymore because you're never required to do that, right? They don't necessarily know how to take notes when high school teachers give the notes. You don't know how to, what I call, make notes. I'm here in the Learning Center. This answers another question about walk-in hours. I do walk-in hours. I posted the link. You can request more than one Learning Center appointment a day. You just have to talk to Lisa, who is in the Learning Center. So there are lots of opportunities. You just have to ask. You have to seek out these opportunities. You have to come talk to Sonia. Like, how do you know how to become an active listener? How do you know how to take or make notes? Come talk to us. You reaching out, we will do what we can to get you the support that you need. But there was a lot of questions about that. The other question that's coming in, Sonia, maybe you can answer, and maybe not, because we're running a little bit out of time here. But the question was about meeting with an academic advisor. What should I bring to that meeting? What should any of that look like? And my response to that student is, number one, yes, reach out to the academic advisor. Shoot an email. Try to stop by their office if you don't hear back. But my other response is 2 weeks from now, we'll have a learning LionSide Chat here on We Are Advised, and it's advising week. So that question is coming. We got some support coming in a few weeks on this platform.
Absolutely. And something with advising, it's not just about registration. Like registration and advising are two completely separate activities. You have to adopt the mindset of, I'm part of this too. Like they're not just there to tell you what classes to take. You want something more than that from your academic advising relationship. So, the first starting point would be to grab a copy of your recommended academic plan or a suggested academic plan, whatever we're calling it these days, and figure out what classes you want to be taking. But you want to have a larger conversation. And there's actually resources, again, available on the internet where you can find like questions to ask my academic advisor that you don't have to sit there, print out and read verbatim, but look over those sheets prior to going to your academic advising appointment, because it shows your academic advisor that you're vested, you're interested, and you're more than there just to know if you're taking the right next group of classes. So those are some things that I would definitely recommend. And get connected. Like if it ends up being that you walk to their office door or you give them a phone call, shoot them some emails, just get connected with them. And if you need help finding your advisor, you reach out to Ryan and I.
Awesome. I think we got to most of them. If we did not answer your question, please follow up. The LionSide Chat Network contact is here, but Sonia and I are in the Learning Center as well. You can come reach out to us. So Sonia, if I can, thank you for chatting with us today.
Absolutely.
On behalf of all the students, again, I'm hoping that they all realize the wealth of information and resources that you bring to the table here as a value member.
I'm a geyser, Ryan.
Yeah. The one thing that I pulled out and I continue to say is absolutely, this was talking about success, right? Celebrate successes left and right, absolutely. But embracing those failures, that is going to be the key to becoming successful. And the big picture, as Sonia mentioned, the 4 years from now, that's what will, what you're looking for success. So thank you for helping us. Thank you for everybody who joined us today. We had a large crowd. As you click out of our webinar, we will you will have access to a survey. If you can fill that out and give us some information about how we did or what things you might be looking for in the future, that will really help guide our future chats. Our contact information is here on the slide. You can reach out to us, or you can watch these recordings on our LionSide Chat website there. Our next chats are posted here, as part of the We Are series. Every week we're highlighting a different component. So next week, actually, thinking about one of our majors here at Penn State Berks, we have awesome student panel. It's a student panel on why Berks works and why students, decided to stay here at Penn State Berks. 2 weeks from now, we have the We Are Advised, and then we have Origins of Culture coming up in a few weeks from now. So be sure to come back with us, meet with other faculty, staff, or students here at Penn State to share these experiences. And as always, especially in these times, stay safe, mask up, and stay safe until we see you next time. So signing off, this has been the Penn State Berks LionSide Chats. Thank you so much, Sonia, and we will chat later.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.